I didn't know what a hostel was. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of what I thought it might be. But I entered in, walked through the doors at like 9:30 in the morning. And this is an extremely pivotal moment in my life. James, you were in the back, in the kitchen making pancakes, and you were like had your little apron on, you were covered in batter, and I was in tears, really lost, both
Yeah.
physically, mentally, emotionally, so lost. And you saw it right on my face. You dropped everything. You gave me a huge bear hug. You didn't even say anything at first. Literally just two strangers hugging in this cute little Victorian house in Little Italy in San Diego. And I was like, it was that moment where I knew that I was where I needed to be. And I felt something that I'd never felt before in my entire life. So that was my very first introduction to a hostel.
Hello, friends and travelers. Thanks for listening. You are riding along on the Hostel Road Trip podcast. Our mission is to spread awareness of the true hosteling experience in the Americas and share stories from the fascinating hosts who create those unique facilities. I'm your host, Jimmy Black, joined alongside co-founder of International Travelers House, Bobby Dyer. Each session, we sit down with hostel operators or travel influencers to hear about their road to success, discuss trending hostel topics, and close with tips for travelers who are seeking to have the ultimate experience when visiting each destination. You can't afford to miss this trip. Now fasten your seatbelts and let's hit the road. Welcome back to the Hostel Road Trip podcast. We've got an exciting day, a double header today. Right now, we're meeting with Dave Cook out in New Hampshire at the Barndoor Hostel. I'm Jimmy Black with ITH Hostels, currently up at our Big Bear Mountain location, and joined again by my partner and co-founder, Robert Dyer, who's down at our Sayulita, Mexico location. Thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here. Welcome, Dave.
Yeah, same. Exciting.
Yeah, and we're also going to be meeting with Frankie Medusa later this afternoon for the second part of our doubleheader. So stay tuned for these episodes to drop, as we've been getting them out quite quickly after we do our recordings and live and one shot, one kill format. So yeah, let's dive into it with Dave Cook, who we obviously have a special relationship with and a fondness and an intimacy, as Dave was at one time part of the ITH team, but he's gone on to open a rockin' place out in New Hampshire called the Barndoor Hostel, and has been running that for how many years now, Dave?
Entering in our fifth year.
Entering in our outstanding, and the first couple are the toughest, as you know, Dave. So you're past that hump, and we're excited to hear your journey, how you got into hostels, how you have gone through this process of opening up your own hostel and your style and what you have to offer, and what you see in the future for Barndoor Hostel. So, but first, I always like to ask, what was your first exposure to hostels?
It was you guys.
The
The
first one ever? You had never stayed in another one?
Literally never even heard of one.
Wow. Okay. Well, then
Uh,
we're going to get to a great story right off the bat. So
Yeah.
give us a little background, because you do have a fantastic hostel story, and the fact that that
So
was the first one is even better.
yeah, you chimed me into the fact that this was 12 years ago, um, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think about. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was born and raised in Connecticut, and moved out west as young folks do, to go find themselves or get lost or both. And I was kind of waiting to hear back from a couple job interviews and had really run out of money, and was sort of down on my luck. And I called my mom. I was like, "Hey, mom, I kind of give up on this silly California dream. I'm ready to come back." And she quickly Googled, cheap places to stay, and found this little tiny Victorian house called International Travelers House. And I think she booked me like 2 nights. Um, and I was almost adamantly refusing the fact that I didn't want to go at all. My I was too sheltered, too naive, too um stuck in my own ego type of thing. I didn't know what a hostel was. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of what I thought it might be. But I entered in, walked through the doors at like 9:30 in the morning. And this is an extremely pivotal moment in my life. James, you were in the back, in the kitchen making pancakes, and you were like had your little apron on, you were covered in batter, and I was in tears, really lost, both
Yeah.
physically, mentally, emotionally, so lost. And you saw it right on my face. You dropped everything. You gave me a huge bear hug. You didn't even say anything at first. Literally just two strangers hugging in this cute little Victorian house in Little Italy in San Diego. And I was like, it was that moment where I knew that I was where I needed to be. And I felt something that I'd never felt before in my entire life. So that was my very first introduction to a hostel. And after those couple days that my mom booked, I saw a sign in the bathroom, I think it was, it's like, ask us how to get a night for free. And Bobby, you were maybe on vacation. I hadn't met you until like a week later. But after those first couple days, James, you told me I just needed to clean the grill. It had just been barbecue night, and I needed to clean the grill, and therefore I could get a free night stay.
Task for
And
trade.
and little did I know that barbecue night was like something very, very important in the early
Oh
growth
yeah.
of ITH. And I I had a full day of cleaning that area, the grill, the beer cans, everything. It was kind of a nice wake up call. I'm like, oh, I've cleaned a grill before. No, this was like I had to clean.
Wow.
It's like cleaning a slaughterhouse afterwards. But I do remember that, David.
Yep.
You know, you
Yep.
just looked like a guy like this guy doesn't need a pancake, he needs a hug.
I absolutely I did, and to this day, I tell this story time and time again. We've actually done a presentation here at the hostel of like how did Barndoor come to
Oh,
fruition.
cool.
And yeah, we do a bunch of different community talks. They're called chalk talks, and I did one.
Right.
And yeah, that was this pancake story is the story that I start that with. Um, it's such an a branded moment in my heart and in my life that yeah, that was my first introduction.
That's a beautiful story. I don't know if you can beat that one. But yeah, so many great memories, flooding back in now talking to you in those early times, and also showing how beautiful and powerful and impactful the hostel experience can be when it's being executed properly with the right style of craft. So
Yeah.
so happy that experience put you on that trajectory, and has brought you to where you are now. So in that journey, let's kind of start to switch over to the Barndoor Hostel. you
Sure.
know how did that conception start, and what were like the first moves in your experience there that it opened up 5 years ago? So give us a
Right.
rundown on how you got that kicked off.
Sure. In most people's lives, you take this path, whether it be circuitous or very straight forward. Um, and I took a very circuitous one and kind of um, happenstanced my way up to Rumney, New Hampshire, where Barndoor is. Um, after leaving ITH, I worked at an adult summer camp. I worked at a YMCA as an environmental educator, as an age group director. I worked at a rock climbing gym as a youth program director. So I kind of took all of those things and utilized them towards the hostel. But the reason I was even up in this area to begin with was because of the climbing gym that I was working at in Rhode Island, where I went and served a couple tables for you guys at the Mudville
That's
Flats.
Hey,
another bizarre chapter.
I know it's such a beautifully intertwined life story,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
um Yeah, so I was in Rhode Island working at a climbing gym, and people were telling me about this place called Rumney, which is a very small town. It's like 1,400 people, and the main demographic is like over 50, 55. But we're at the heart of White Mountain National Forest, and there's an absolute mecca for rock climbing. So as working in the rock climbing gym, I went up to Rumney to go rock climb on real rock and was camping and staying in hotels and bed and breakfasts. And I was like, man, this place needs a hostel. We need something that's comfortable for outdoor adventure people and affordable enough that it's not $150 a night at the mom and pop's B&B. So I started looking around and I looked at a couple different properties, realized very quickly that I was way outside of my financial ballpark. Um, so I had to convince, well, at first I tried to convince my, at the time, climbing partners, parents. I tried to convince them to come in on the
Yeah.
business. And then they didn't really want to do it, so I convinced my folks to. And thankfully, we were able to secure a property. It's 9 acres. It's like beautifully situated. We're 2 miles away from the climbing area, and we do have camping. We have like about 6 or 7 acres of camping. We have our hostel, which sleeps 26, and we have a converted bus that's like a little glamping thing, and soon to build a couple more cabins. So
Oh,
Amazing. I love your
yeah,
I have a similar story of working at the hostel, leaving the hostel for something else, and then coming back to the hostel. And I'd interested like when you started working at the other places after you left ITH, at what point were you like, damn, I missed that hostel life, like, and then or always had that bug and then wanted to get back into it. What drew you back in after
I
leaving?
I
A lot of
I'll be
people.
honest with you. I missed it almost every single day. I had it so good in San Diego. You guys were like such amazing inspirations and amazing bosses. Um, and so after leaving there, I mean, it was kind of a little bit of a rough break in the beginning between us. And very shortly afterwards, I realized that I'm a complete idiot and I need to grow up. And we, as friends and as business partners and whatever, kind of realized, okay, it's nice for folks to spread their wings and go experience other things and go work at other jobs. But truly, in my heart, it never really left. Like ITH was such a defining moment and such a defining feature of my personality, the hostel lifestyle, meeting people, socializing, like lending a helping hand, building a community, being part of a bigger community. All of that stuff is super important to me. And it really never left me. And I tried to instill those things in my other roles at other companies. And doesn't quite line up the same way it does as if you were owning and operating or working at a hostel.
Yeah, no, we always notice that in you being you have that ultimate host personality. You're a fun guy to be around, and you keep life light and exciting, and have a can-do attitude. So, which is what it takes to be a great hostel manager or owner. But it is interesting. We were chatting with the guy with Ryan from the Monterey Hostel, and he said it nicely, like the hostel is my life, the life is my hostel, and we
Mm,
find those are the best hostels, right? You get to let your personality really shine through and people want to come experience your level of hospitality or your personal style of hospitality, which is different for everybody. And that's what makes hostels so unique because
absolutely.
you're really getting hosted at this place. And I think that's why you've had so much success, over there as you are a great host. So we'll send the
Yeah,
love.
thank you.
You definitely keep us on our toes and inspired as well. Um, how about to the you get open? Tell us about kind of like opening day, maybe the first 100 days or what. It's a unique
Uh,
story for everybody. We love to hear that. And what was that like
sure.
for you?
Yeah, opening day is just a great talking point for us. Um, so we moved onto the property in May of 2018, and almost immediately started renovating this barn. I think in our last hostel road trip podcast was during COVID. We kind of talked about converting. It was a chicken coop at one point, and we converted it into this hostel, and it's totally transforming every day. The room that I'm sitting in is new as of like 11 months ago. So everything is always changing. But um, opening day, uh, it took about a year to gut this place. It was gross. And it was so bad. Mice and just it was just gross. Um, so we gutted it down, studs and cement, and that was it. We built it all back up and opened, had our like soft opening party, which turned into a grand opening party, um, Memorial Weekend 2019. And it was wild. We were 100% sold out. We had like, I don't know, 150 campers. We had every bed full in here, 26 people. We had a band play, we had a food truck, we had a bar, cart. Um, we had just people having a great time. And I was having a great time. Guys bringing moonshine over, all of this like really rural New Hampshire community stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and and we had we had the police come
Oh.
um once, technically twice, but the first time they came and kind of drove up a little bit fast and like, hey, you get in the car. And I was like, me? Like, so they put me in the car. I'm thankfully in the front seat, and we drove
Ah!
we drove around, and he pulled over to different areas of town and turned off his car, rolled down the windows and turned off the car and was like, "Hey, what do you hear right now?" And obviously we heard the party happening. And it's such a small town that it was um, a new experience for everybody, myself, the police officer, everybody in the town. Um, they didn't know what a hostel was. They didn't know what kind of this party scene was, the younger generation. Like I
Yeah.
said, the main demographic is up there.
Yeah.
So he brought me back eventually. And a couple hours later, we had this guy who's riding his bike down. We have two camping fields. One is like up on a hill behind the hostel, and one is down low in front of the hostel. And so he was riding his bike down this gravel hill from one to the other, and went over his handlebars. And
Ugh.
it was bad. I will save you the details, but I
Yeah.
will just
On opening
just
night.
yeah, so his body was laying face down
Oh
and his
my.
head was face up. So it
No.
was
Oh wow.
thankfully, I mean, you joked when we first jumped on this call about my stash looking like a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was a lifeguard for many, many years, and so my instincts kicked in. We had somebody calling 911. We had somebody checking his pulse, all of this stuff. And this is while a band is playing at on our open. We had not even had anybody sleep overnight yet.
Jesus.
And this day one, like 6 p.m. So
Oh.
the
Was the
ambulance
cop
finally
drop you
gets
off
here.
after
Say
you got out
again?
of the cop car? You saw this guy, or was the cop there when the guy went over the handlebars?
No, this was like hours later.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah, this
gee.
was like
Moonshine
this was
started to
like
kick
6 or
in.
7 p.m. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the cop came at like 3:30.
Welcome to the neighborhood. The neighbors must have
Yeah.
loved you.
Yep. So this guy flips over the handlebars, ends up with a broken neck.
Oh
The ambulance
God.
comes. They are, I mean, my lifeguard training is not EMT and ambulance training, but I'm witnessing some things that are like, you probably shouldn't do that, asking the guest, yes or no questions. Like the first thing you do if somebody has something broken in their neck, you don't ask them yes or no questions. They're just gonna nod their head, yes, so it was
Gee,
just wild. Um,
Really?
turns
that's
it,
insane.
say again.
I was
That's
gonna say,
insane.
One of our
Yeah.
mottos: never want to be the drunkest guy at the party because you got to.
Exactly. So I find out weeks later that he's totally fine.
Oh, I was
He
okay.
he just had a little neck brace on for a little while and then was like riding his ATV around. So a friend of a friend sent me a video of him riding his ATV around, so he's totally fine.
Oh,
But the moment of panic of day
ah,
one, we literally, just to add the icing on the cake, like I don't know if how you guys feel about insurances and insurance companies.
oh,
It's very, very difficult
yeah.
to describe a hostel to an insurance company. So we've
Oh,
tried a ton, and thankfully we signed our insurance papers that morning, the morning of the party.
oh my
And
God.
then this happens. The cops come, the ambulance comes. So it was just totally insane. It's been, knock on wood, smooth sailing thus far.
Ah,
You just got to get it out of the way.
yeah, you ripped the band-aid right off. Oh my.
Yes. Yeah.
Now that's just wild right there. And think on the first day and so much panic and anxiety already.
Oh,
That you're already at your tops. And then you
yeah.
throw that on, and the fact that you were detained by the cop and driven around, that's just too funny. You could make
Yeah.
a movie out of that opening day.
Yeah. It
But,
turn it turns out I ended up complaining to the town about the police officer, because there's not a noise ordinance in town. Well, there is, but it's like not like pertaining to parties or anything like that. And since that day we've been very respectful. But I did go to the town and say, hey, listen, I was like borderline detained by this officer and whatever, and I had to give a statement to the town, and the officer had to go in and give his statement, and I don't know if I had a direct relation or correlation to this, but he has since been let go. Um, and the officer that's in town now is amazing. He's been here probably a dozen times on good faith and just checking things out, coming for community events.
oh, cool.
So yeah. It was a weird situation for us to navigate through a small town with kind of a disgruntled officer, um, and a broken neck on day
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that's why. And I was actually talking, and you're going to be, you'll laugh, but you'll be getting contacted sometime shortly. We're doing a project in the attempt to bring about hostel awareness of writing another hostel book.
Yes.
I've given them your name. We have a ghostwriter who's lived on site now for about a year throughout different ITHs. He's our version of Hunter S. Thompson with the Hells Angels. And he's a great guy named Zach. And he's going to be reaching out to you because when we were doing the interviews with him, he was taking his note taking and capturing people's names in the beginning that were repeated. And yours, of course, was one of them. But just back to your experience, and the same thing with us. It's such wild times in the beginning, and we were moving so fast and trying to open up multiple spots in those first second year that I always reflect on how crazy it was and how wild it was, and that we lost a lot of good men, including yourself, because it was just such a chaotic, wild ride.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that story you have, though, man, that's the tops for opening days.
Yeah.
Now, how about the hostel industry in New Hampshire? I'm very curious on that, as we once did a road trip through New Hampshire doing podcasts with the hostels that were there at that time, and this is years ago before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
As we were posting old episodes from the archives or going to post them, we did see that it seemed like some of the places up there may not still be open. But I was curious, like, what's it look like now as far as the New Hampshire hostel operation? How many are active?
Sure. It's wildly different to compare like a rural state like New Hampshire to a more densely populated state like California.
Sure.
And the sheer number of hostels is crazy different. New Hampshire, to the best of my knowledge, has maybe 10.
Well, that's cool.
Yep. And of those 10, I would say maybe 4 are like above board.
A legit operation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Yep. Um,
that's on par with numbers for every state, I'd say. Well, about half of them
yeah.
are
So there
legitimate.
is there we drew a lot of inspiration not only from ITH in my time there, but inspiration from a very famous hostel in New Hampshire, the Notch Hostel. And I
Uh,
think you guys have done
yeah,
an episode with Serena at the Notch Hostel.
amazing spot.
She runs such a tight ship. She has like guest requests as the number one thing on her agenda every single day. She just wants to make sure that every single person is taken care of. So we really thought that that was obviously a huge thing. Like you said, any good host, you want to
Hmm.
just make sure that that guest is taken care of. So we pulled a lot of inspiration from her and asked her for help when we were opening too. Her and I helped kind of gather a couple local hostel owners in Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire. Um, it started out as New Hampshire Hostels Network and then moved into the more of the New England Hostels Network.
Oh, awesome.
So we probably have maybe a dozen total. Not all of those are active in the chats and whatever,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
love that's
it's just kind of something to share and we're all we're all spaced out nicely, so we're not stealing each other's guests, and
yep,
not that that's, in my opinion, ever really a thing. Like Bobby said in the beginning, every hostel and every host is totally different,
yep.
and every guest is totally different. So somebody could be looking for something that Barndoor offers for one specific weekend, even though they're a diehard Notch Hostel guest, for
Yep.
example, um, and vice versa. So I don't see any sort of competition with any of them. And I think that this group that we formed, this network that we formed, has helped with just sharing information with great guests, with groups. If we're booked and, oh, this other hostel might have accommodations available, um, troublesome people in the area, everything. So,
Mhm. That is awesome here. I think that what you say is so true about, and the Notch House is a good example of just focusing on every guest. And one crucial thing in that is how big is your hostel? Because at a certain point, there's a threshold where you're just not going to be able to do that anymore. Give them that intimate host to guest catered experience, custom experience. So I love the size of your hostel as well as the size of Notch Hostel. And we have hostels that are in that range of 30 to 80 beds, but it's so much more prevalent in the 30-bed hostels. How much more of that you can do of just like focusing on the individual and making sure their experience is as best can be, and helping them,
yeah,
because that really, in addition to the social atmosphere of the hostel, it can be a huge differentiator compared to hotels, right? They're just
yeah.
not going to get that.
I think that the authenticity of a hostel, the personal touch, dwindles drastically. It's kind of an exponential decay.
Yep.
The more
Everyone.
beds you get. Yeah, absolutely.
What well, I think today, especially, you're seeing a lot of people are looking for community, looking for connection coming out of the pandemic. And now also with AI, it's taken over everything. So, but you're seeing again, people want to embrace the humanity and the human connection. I think you guys do an amazing job with having that community vibe. And I think it sounds like you've mended the any fences with people when you first moved in by having so many great local events. But how do you guys prioritize that and try to execute a great community plan to welcome the community in, host these events at the hostel? What is your kind of mindset there that maybe other hostels could try to learn from?
My background is in, kind of community development or just community in general. Growing up, going to and working at a YMCA, kind of developed my love for both being in the community that I'm in, but also creating little communities within that. Whether it's somebody, for example, at the YMCA, being part of the weightlifting crew, you see the same 8 guys every weekend going in the weight room, or the same couple of old ladies at the pool aquasizing. So just those little tiny communities are an obvious and very important part of the larger overall community. And it's our probably number one priority is to not only host the local community that we have, but also to engage them and pull them in for an art night or a craft fair or a family movie night, something that just tells the locals, hey, we're here, we're not weird, we're not whatever you think that we are.
That story you
And
heard about the guy with the broken neck, that wasn't real.
exactly, whatever. Come on over, hang out, bring your kids. We're showing Toy Story tonight, whatever you want, you know?
Right.
So it's really nice to be able to do that. And then for that community of locals to blend with these outdoor adventure people that are coming as guests here. So we'll have on any given night, I don't know, 30 to 50 people just floating around, whether it's inside in the hostel or outside on the campground, and just exist with these locals. And the beautiful thing about the location that we have is that we're surrounded by nature. And nature is kind of like a grounding, a common ground for everybody, right? If you don't love fresh air, like what, like how could it be more easy to connect?
Yeah,
You're all out here. Maybe you're a local. You moved here 50 years ago. Or your family's been here all your life, or whatever, because you love it up here. It's nature. There's not a lot of people. You get to see trees and beautiful blue herons flying through the river, and the same thing, the same essence is why rock climbers come here. Why hikers come here. Why whitewater kayakers come here. They're looking to be out in nature. And so it's really nice to have the local community and the outdoor community blend. Sure, it might take Toy Story 3 or it might take an art fair to do that, but those folks are there and they're interacting together. And that to me is super special.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that you give a great example of how organically one can represent their hostel in the way they want it to be seen and control the narrative more. Because, as you know, we know, the listeners know, the hostels have a horrible stigma in the U.S., and that's a big part of the reason why uh, we're trying to do this book, is to bring the other side to the story, or a more awareness, because it just seems like we just get slammed with slanderous, type of perceptions that are out there. And this is a great way, what you're doing, to at least control your local community, what surrounds you, by bringing them awareness about what you are and who you are. And that's going to bring in all kinds of good vibes, but also good business. They're going to refer you to their friends now. You're going to have a good perception within the community, within, with the law enforcement agencies. So I think that's awesome what you're doing, not only having events, but letting your facilities be used to have certain events like yoga retreats and meetups. That can just be so powerful and profound of an impact for hostile awareness for everyone,
Yeah,
for the industry. So the more that we can all do that, the more we can organically fight back against that stigma.
totally.
Yeah, these in this podcast, that's one of the big things we're doing. While we want to share the stories, you hear the stories from the owners of the hostel, what their hostel's about, and the mission they're on, so it can help uh, display the truth to the community. But and just to add to those great events you're doing, I think it's hostels. The more and more hostels can get looked at as like a friendly gathering place for the international community or any kind of traveler in the little community. That's a great thing. So now there's affordable lodging in each town and a friendly, welcome host. And also from the marketing side, if you're sitting at your place and it's the low season, instead of just sitting around frustrated that you're empty during the low season, utilize your local community, host some local events. Now you're doing you're building relationships, and it's amazing if you build 5-10 relationships. You build one relationship before you know it, their cousins visiting, staying at the hostel, booked for 7 nights.
Precisely. Yep.
So the more
Exactly.
popular you can become in a positive way, and obviously
Yep.
provide the people with a great experience and a great room at its core, but it does wonders for growth and filling up your beds. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there there isn't really a community center around us. I mean, we do have a university in the next town over, but I think that that draws um, a ton of the younger crowd, which is totally perfect for that. But we want to kind of provide a community space for everybody. And exactly what you said, Bobby, we have a local person and they have a little cabin, an off-grid cabin, but their kids are coming to visit or the grandkids are coming to visit and they need another place to stay. Now that person that lives in the town knows about us because they came to a basket weaving retreat or just a little movie night, whatever it may be, a wine night. They now know about us and they say, "Hey, son, grandson, like y'all can stay right down the road. They're super comfortable. It's whatever, whatever." And they don't have this idea, uh, this mystery of whatever this place may be.
right.
And I had that too when I first stepped foot in your guys' place. I saw the movie Hostel. Like that's what everybody.
Yeah.
It's a hackneyed subject, but yeah, the movie Hostel kind of is what anybody and everybody that ever has heard of the word hostel but doesn't know what a hostel is thinks. Uh,
Defaults. Yeah.
yeah, total default.
Yeah.
And it's you know, it's a great horror movie, but it's not what this is about.
Yeah.
It's not at all. So it's
They're
really
remaking it. Did you see that? Paul Giamatti's coming out with a new
Paul
series.
Giamatti.
I did not see that. No.
That's why we're
So it's
trying
gonna
to
get
fight
back
back.
in the news.
Yeah,
The whole
Wow. Okay. So yeah, well, you got to get ahead of the
we
curve
have
with
to get the word out there in another
yeah.
than
the fear
thousand.
sells. You
Who
gotta
you on SEO on that?
Yeah, yeah. But Dave, I have a curious question with the New England hostel network you've built up.
Yeah.
Would you now? Are you a member of the NAHA, like the North American Hostel Association?
I'm not. I'm aware of it. I know of
Now,
Naha, and there's another one too.
what stopped you from joining? As we were heartbroken not to see you at the past events.
Um, Time, I guess.
Right.
So I think I told Bobby, but I don't know about you, James. I have a 4-month-old now. Um,
Oh my God!
congratulations.
Congratulations.
thank
Well,
you. Yep.
that may be the only excuse I could accept.
So yeah, so time is very important now.
Sure.
It totally changes once you have a child.
Yeah.
As you probably know, Bobby, it's so different and
Joy
what
every minute you can get.
exactly what used to take 10 minutes now takes an hour and a half. What used to take an hour and a half now takes 3 days, So it's totally changed my perception and how I operate this business, including branching out to larger communities like Naha. Um, I did go to that American Hostel Conference that I saw you guys at a few years back. That might
I
have
was
been
in
2018.
Charleston.
Yes. Yeah.
6 years
So
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
Dave,
know.
Check
you're
out.
overdue for a hostel conference.
Bring the
That's what
family. I
I
brought the whole family last time.
he brought.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we bring the kids
They're
with
baby
us.
friendly.
Great. Great. We'll try to make it work because like I said, it's an interesting juggle to I live about 25 feet away from this building in another building.
Yeah.
I can see the lights on at night. So
Sure.
it's this the person that you said earlier, Bobby, the hostel is my life and my life is the hostel. That rings so true for me. I'm here all the time. I see everything and time is so different now. So I would love to reach out and be part of larger communities like that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely on my radar, and not off the table for sure. So
Well, the spread the word in that network too, and I'm sure that they'd be willing to give a good deal to you for joining if you all joined together, right? If the entire New England network became a part of
Sure.
NAHA, because
Yep.
that's definitely they've got a Jim Kennett has got a great thing going on, and we've seen a few different ones pop up, and then the gals in Denver have an amazing movement going on. Have you joined that with the Hostling US?
I have not. I've listed
You're
my
all being very much isolated over there in New England. I don't know. So I'm from New England, so don't make me come home.
I we'd love to have you, Jimmy.
You know,
Come on over.
I'll hop on the Harley and I'll drive door to door and make you all join.
Perfect. Yeah. I think so the main goals of the New England Hostel Network right now are really it all started during COVID when we needed some guidance in navigating should we be open? Can we be open? And so we all kind of gathered together, and then we all decided to join the New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association. So I'm still a member of that. I'm not sure if the other members of the New
Yeah.
England Hostels Network are, but they're a crazy valuable resource for us in operating. They'll give you literally everything that you ever needed without, well, I mean, not money, but I
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, any resource that you need, any sort of information when it comes to operating any place with a bed or booze. So
Outstanding.
yeah, so that's our main focus right now, and perhaps we can broaden that to a NAHA or a Hostling US in the future.
All right. Well, one last question. I'm going to send out an invitation, but you're tough with, you're not attending any of the conferences, but I was going to invite you to an old classic. We still do our company manager retreat out at the Joshua Tree Music Festival.
Oh
And
man.
we've started to take and invite other hostel owners and managers with us. We've got
Wow.
Joe Gill from Bond, Paul and Sharkey's coming this October.
Cool.
Alfie is a manager up at the HI Windsor. So I was going to say, Dave Cook, if you come out, I'll pay for your ticket. Boston, San Diego. But
That
out with
that's
the 4 that's tougher. I understand. But
yeah,
I would accept an attendance at either one of the conferences in its place.
sure. I'll try to make one of those things happen. And it's funny that you bring up the J Tree Music Fest because we were just talking about that in our manager meeting 2 days ago.
Oh,
And how that was another pivotal, very very poignant point in my life.
With us and Eric from World Packers out there.
Say again?
It was us and Eric from World Packers out there camping.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
yeah. Yep. You should see how much we've improved, Dave. We've got RVs, we got power, we got water. I mean, that back in the day, I tell stories about those early trips when it was just, a couple of gallons of water, a few tents, and a sleeping cot.
Exactly. Yep. I didn't even have a cot. I was right on the sand.
Yeah. Rough. Yeah, we've come a long way since then.
Come a long way, and there is a Kidsville, so remember, it's daycare friendly.
Yep. Wow.
But hey, thank you so much for joining us, David. I mean, just a blast from the past, and we've always been so proud of you, and we always tell everyone about you and what you've done over there. Happy to and excited to see you continue to grow over there at the Barndoor, and I look forward to one day visiting, and I do when I come back home in one of these visits. But keep on rocking out there, brother. So nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. It was it's really, really good to catch up. Really good to see you guys' faces and tell some stories that you know and don't know. So now you know. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Dave. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys. Take care.